Welcome back to episode 17 of Alpha Nation, everybody. So today we've got both Gregory Wasson and Zachary George on. Thanks for coming on again, guys.
Thanks for having us again,
Good
Hayden.
invite.
And we're going to be talking more about, we're going to be doing our running programming and running kind of training part 2 with Zach, our specialist, in-house runner, because no one else decided to do
it. The only in-house runner.
The only in-house runner. The only runner in the Alpha team. So yeah, we're just going to be listing off, covering all the topics we didn't last time, because yeah, we left it a little bit open-ended, but hopefully this will close it up or make room for part 3. We'll see how
We're just going to open it up even more, to be honest.
Oh, literally, yeah. There's so much to it. So yeah, I reckon we get straight into the nitty-gritty. Gregory, you want to kick things off?
Yeah, so I can't remember too much about the last one, so
Neither can I.
I'm gonna.
How many months ago was it? It was at least half a year ago.
Like, well, we were in a gym.
Yeah, we were in a gym.
Well, there you go. It's at least 3 months ago. Then, isn't it? It was one of the earlier podcasts, so I can't really recall what you kind of ran over and whatnot. So I don't know. Give us a bit of an idea of what you're kind of doing with your own running at the moment, Zachy, and we'll just roll from there, mate. What's going on with you? What are you training for at the moment?
Nothing. There's no set dates, obviously, because events are pretty here and there with lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
I just got finished up training for just a 5K PB, trying to break 20 minutes and got that done. So now I'm just kind of pushing forward more with the 5K training, but with a little side goal of trying to just get a fast 1 kilometer run. So it's kind of doing that side training, fast track work at the moment. But because there's no dates set for any events or anything, I don't really have any clear goal, but it's just that kind of looking towards that 5K.
Just rewind there for a second. Did you just say you did 5K in 20 minutes?
Yeah, just under.
Holy shit, man, that's a 4-minute average, eh?
Yeah, I think it was a 3:57 average it ended up being.
Ooh,
guys,
that's quick, eh?
The other day I did 3Ks in like 28 minutes. So
wow.
With lots of fucking walking in between. So
that is quick. How does like a 4-minute K sort of, where's that sit in the level of, I know it's quick compared to us normal people, but in the runner world, is that starting to get up at that advanced sort of level?
I feel like the 4-minute K or the 20-minute 5Ks, it's kind of like anyone that's an amateur or a recreational runner, that's kind of where you're trying to aim for. Yeah, it's like, it's like, oh, if I could get that 20-minute 5K one day, then I've succeeded. But
so you're stepping up into the next realm, mate. You're no longer an amateur.
I'm trying to be
big time now.
If I could be a top-end recreational runner, I'd be happy. But
4 years you'll be at the Olympics, eh?
You look at what I've done, and the world record's still another 7 minutes faster or more. So there's a big gap.
What the fuck, man?
What's that?
That is quick.
Yeah, world record.
What's the average on per kilometer on that?
It'd be 17 or 13 minutes for 5Ks.
It's like 2:32.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not even 3 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, it's in the 2:30s.
That's incredible. I couldn't even do 1K for that. Yeah. I couldn't even do 1K in 4 minutes.
I'm basically training to get under 3 minutes for the 1K, and this guy's doing it 12 and a half laps around the track with 30 seconds faster.
That's unbelievable, hey?
That's insane.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. All right, so let's kind of pick up where you left off in the last one. We've got a few notes down that you guys didn't get to cover last time. So give us a bit of an idea. Say I came to a bit of a plateau in my running. Why have I stopped improving? Why aren't I getting better anymore, Zachy? What can I do to continue progression? Say I've got to the you're at right now, and you're stuck there for 3 to 6 months. What's next? Why am I stuck there? What do I do?
Well, that's a very big question there, because everybody trains differently and everyone goes in with different ideas on what they should be doing. But if I was just taking myself right now, I would look for a gap in my training. So basically, if I look and see that right now I've been doing like a fast track work on a Tuesday, a kind of 10 to 20 minute sort of efforts at slower speeds on the Thursdays and then longer runs on the Sundays and recovery runs in between. I would see the gap in there would be that I haven't done any kind of long sustained hard efforts. So that's where if I'm stuck at this level where I'm at now, it might be time to throw in some longer, harder efforts and shift towards that. Work on maybe instead of short, say 2 to 600 meter intervals on the track, I might go up to 1K to 1.5K sort of intervals and just work on getting that speed up in different energy systems. And yeah, basically just looking for a gap in your training. So a lot of people, that might be that they're not doing the long run, or they're not doing the recovery runs in between, or they're only doing like going to parkrun on the weekend and only doing a fast 5K, but they're not working on proper leg speed or on that endurance. So basically, to answer that question, it's just looking for what you're not doing in your training and then try and incorporate that in.
Finding that weak link in the chain, hey?
Yeah.
Just like anything, really.
Just on that, what kind of frequencies would you kind of recommend for runners? Like how many days a week, and then how would you split those sessions up into those days, I guess? Or
it'd be the same as like we discussed last week, Ada. Like where does someone start?
Yeah.
How long's a piece of string?
Yeah.
So all right, so let's use myself as an example, Zachy. So 0 running at the moment, play a bit of sport. Say I'm in the off season for soccer, right? I want to get fit and be running as fast as I can and whatnot for the next season. So I kick off now. I haven't run in about 3 months. Where do I start, Zachy?
Well, with you, I know what level you play at sport, and I know that you can play a 90-minute game if you really want to, when you're in your fittest in that in season. So you would probably, at most, you'd maybe do 4 days of running, but I'd say like 3 to 4 sort of days of running. And really, you'd want to just work on a lot of that, building up your distances and getting some aerobic fitness in there, so you can come into that pre-season being aerobically fit. And then as soon as you get into those drills, you're doing the box to box and all of that, that's when you start to get the anaerobic systems going. So you wouldn't do too much of the sprints and all of that sort of thing, but rather build up your base and basically use that as your base building phase. So 3 days a week, just building up. Say you might only be able to do 3K, 3 kilometers at your normal running pace before you just get bored, get tired, your legs hurt. You try and build that up to 4 or 5 and just slowly build it up, and in a smart way, obviously. And then you might throw in a few faster efforts, some intervals and that sort of thing. But yeah, you wouldn't really be going in and doing your 100-meter sprints and that sort of thing. Leave that for the pre-season. That's why it's there.
Right. So use a bit of a general prep phase to build up that aerobic capacity. How long would that sort of phase last? Are you looking at like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? What's your ideal time for that?
You probably want to, if you're doing a base building phase, that 4 to 8 weeks would be pretty good for that. Say if you took a bit of time, just talking about your situation, if you took a bit of time off, which you're now doing because of lockdown, and then say you're a month or 2 months out from preseason, you're thinking, oh, I want to feel good when I get in the preseason. I don't want it to be a big slap in the face. So you might start really easy 6 to 8 weeks out and then just slowly build it up. So you're at a pretty good spot coming in that 6 weeks or 8 weeks down the line, just getting ready for that preseason.
Oh, all right. Let's say, Zachy, we go ahead with this, and I say I've got 6 weeks until preseason. My life is in your hands. Let's run us through week 1, week 2, week 3. Like, where are we looking at intensity and how much volume of running and things like that? What are we looking at? Lay us through week 1 to 6.
When it comes, because you've not really that much, you're not a runner, obviously, you don't know what distance you'd be running. You'd want to go off time rather than distance. So I might say for this first week, just do 2 runs, 2 20-minute runs at a slow, relaxed, comfortable pace. And then basically you should be able to have a chat the whole time, not have to put your hands on your knees, not have to stop, not have to kind of try and get the heart rate down. You want to go really slow no matter what that pace is. And then from there, I would take what you've done and then I would completely change from there how we'd go. So,
building from that point.
Yeah. So there's not really any way I could tell you what we would do, but that's where it comes down to researching a lot on how to train properly, or just get yourself a coach that can really help you out with that, because it's literally everyone's different and you're all training for different things and starting from different points. So it's very important.
You might be preparing me for preseason this year, Zachy, because I saw community sport gets to come back, mate. So that means Macca will be smashing us in a preseason December or January. So 6 weeks out, I might need some aerobic capacity work, mate, building me back up for the lack of running I've done in the last 3 months.
I could not imagine spotting you on the side of the road, Greg, honestly. Like,
imagine driving
past and you just got Greg just super top heavy.
It's not my ideal time, mate. If the boots aren't on, I'm not usually running. I can tell you that much.
I've seen you warm up before around the field, but that's about it.
And even that's a pretty slow pace.
About 8 minutes per kilometre.
That usually equates to everyone else is doing 2 laps. I do my 1 lap and then start doing a bit of mobility work until I get back.
Sort those hips out.
The perks of being one of the old boys in the team.
Give us an influence on the rest of the team, that's all. But with what that is, say you did your 10 to 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Then from there, you might feel like, oh, that was really easy and I pulled up really well. Or you might be like, that was pretty hard. My legs are sore. I don't think I could do much more than that.
That's the likely scenario.
Yeah. So let's say you said that was really good. I think I could do a lot more. We might just go straight to 3 days of 20 minutes to see how that goes.
Yep.
And then if that feels good, then you just start increasing by 10% each week. So you might keep 2 20-minute runs and then add another 20-ish minute run. You might find that the 20 minutes ends up being 3.5K. So you might just bump that up to 4K and then keep the other 2 as 20 minutes. So you can kind of change it between distance and time and all of that. But basically we talked about it last podcast, is that 10% rule. You don't want to increase by really more than 10% each week in volume.
That's just too much of a shock to the system sort of thing.
Yeah. You're just going to end up overtraining, getting an injury. Just not improving as fast as what you could if you had that recovery.
I like that little 10% rule. That's a nice little thing.
That was one of the points I remembered from last podcast of this. So that one struck home. What kind of running injuries would you usually see though? Like you spoke about the overtraining. What can kind of come from that, or what's the most common injuries you see come from that?
Everything. No.
Everything.
A lot of knee pain is probably one of the most common. Shin splints is up there. Ankle sort of things. People get a lot of stress fractures. That's when you're doing consistently training too much. You end up you see a lot of stress fractures, foot injuries. Hips get pretty tight, but it's usually the knee or the shins is probably the biggest ones you'll see.
It's usually just overuse injuries, hey? Yeah. Because you're just doing the repetitive movements for copious amounts of time.
It's super high impact too. Like we said this last time as well, but
Do you find benefit, like, do you do a few runs on grass compared to running on concrete, or that makes zero difference to the equation? What?
I've started doing that. It definitely would make a difference. It would lessen the impact. The only problem with that is it's not a problem for your body, but it's more of you can get you more tired, because obviously running on grass there's not as much energy return. The shoes are built for the road, so when you hit that dirt or the grass, all that energy is being taken away, so you just get tired quicker. But
what about that? So it's talking about injuries, and then you just mentioned footwear. What kind of footwear? Like I think I run a pair of like Adidas. I don't even think they got support. I don't know what they do, mate. They hurt my feet when I'm just walking in them. Yeah. So what's the go-to for runners? Like what do you do? What do you wear?
Well, I wear a lot of different shoes. I've been bullied for my obsessiveness with running shoes. I've probably got like 12 pairs of shoes now. And basically,
shoe fetish.
Yeah, that's it. You've just got to kind of find what works for you. There's so many different brands, so many different running shoes, but there's always the option of going to a running store and they'll kind of size you up and test out that sort of thing. But for me, I just always wore Nike as with my soccer boots growing up. So I'm a bit of a Nike fanboy. So I just got started on some Nike shoes and then learnt more, researched more, kind of got obsessed with it. And then I just kept trying out more and more shoes. But pretty much every pair of shoes I've had, I'm just looking at my shoes over there. Every pair of shoes I've had has been, I've liked them. So It's just, but some people will get a pair of shoes and like, no, these hurt my knees straight away and that sort of thing. So sometimes you're going to just get unlucky and end up getting a good pair of shoes and they're not going to work for you. But a lot of the time, if you just invest that money into a good 1 or 2 pairs of shoes, then you'll be pretty good. But it's when people will go out and go, oh, that one's on sale for $80. I better get that one. When it's just as solid as this table, and that when they're hitting the concrete, it's worse than if they were just running barefoot. So that's...
Is comfort of the shoe a pretty good indicator? Like just in general, if it's comfortable in your foot, it's going to be pretty good to run in, or do you kind of look for any kind of padding on the shoe, or what do you kind of...
It really also depends on your style of running, because
obviously
some people, well, it depends your foot placement. Some people are big heel strikers, some people overpronate, some people supinate a lot. So that just means turning your foot inwards or outwards. So somebody who is a really big heel striker and that's just their style, they're not going to go for that low, harder sort of shoe, because they're just going to land, put all that braking forces through their knees and
through their heel,
all of that. So they might go for something that's a bit thicker with a more pronounced heel. And then there's other people might just find that they like feeling the ground when they're running. That helps them feel better. Basically, it's just personal preference for
grounding.
I was really hoping this was just going to be an answer like buy a pair of Asics XO.
Literally, this is the best one.
For me,
so there's no brand, no make. It's just completely individualized.
Basically, like there's a shoe. I'm like, this is my favorite shoe I've ever worn in my life, and I'll be like, you've got to get it. And then this has happened.
Someone else
somebody
hates
gets it, and they're like, that gave me knee problems instantly. Get better, but But for me, I like a lot of cushion, but I also like to have a pair that is lower profile. So I've got a pair, they're Asics SL20s, and they're pretty firm and a bit of ground contact time. And what you get out of that is just that more snappy sort of feeling. And sometimes you don't want to, basically when you've got all that cushioning, your foot muscles aren't doing any work. They're just going into the cushioning and then bouncing back out of it. So I like to try and do some of my runs activating all my foot muscles and getting a bit more out of it. And also, if you're running on the grass, you probably don't want to be going with a really thick shoe, just because it's going to be so squishy, losing so much energy. So when I'm on the grass, I'll go for a more mid-profile shoe. But if I had to recommend a shoe out of my thing, like if you could only get one pair of shoes, something like a Pegasus shoe, whether that's one of the new ones or the old ones.
Show it to us, Zachy. Come on, whip it out, mate. We want to see it. We want to see it.
All right, can we do a pause? It might take me a while to get in.
Yeah, we'll give you 5 seconds. Go on.
Hold on, a quick 5 seconds. So basically, every pair of shoes that I use right now. So I went for a bit of a hunt. So I guess we'll just go over the whole shoe talk then, won't we?
Yep.
So let's just say, for easy days, I like to go for more of that cushioned shoe. So I've got, and a lot of them are Nike for me, but I do go into other brands. So these ones are called Infinity Runs, but I won't go too much into what the brand is, but more, these ones are just real cushion. So I try and show you, they're quite squishy, quite thick in the heel there. So that just helps to basically protect your legs.
Would that be something you'd wear more on a longer distance run, Zachy? The more cushioning?
Yes, but I've got a long run shoe. So this one is weird looking, but it's very thick. And the difference between these two is just the different type of foam. So this one's got more of that durability foam that's not as responsive, but just that everyday run will get you through, where this one is more really responsive foam, but won't last as long. So it's got that full protection with the rubber, but that one is just super bouncy and really makes you run a little bit faster with that energy return. So I like those for the long runs, helps you get through to the end and still feel pretty good.
Nice.
But then this shoe is the Pegasus. It's not the newest one, it's the second last one. And it's basically something like this would be more of an everyday sort of shoe, where it's got the cushioning, it's got an airbag in the front, it's got good rubber. So this one lasts just a pretty long time, give you a good 500, 600, 700 kilometers, maybe more out of it. And you can go faster, you can go slower, you can do longer runs. So there's that sort of thing. And then there's also more. So like this one, I only do fast runs in this. It's New Balance. It's really cushioned. So like literally when I squish in, it's just crazy cushioned. Yeah. So that one is just gets you going fast, but also keeps you real comfortable. And then, like I was talking about, these ones are quite a bit thinner. They're a lot firmer. These are Adidas ones. They call it a torsion plate. So there's all these different technologies in shoes that just basically when you bend it, it doesn't bend as much. But when it does bend, you let go, it snaps back into place. So energy return there. If I'm running grass track intervals like I do on Tuesdays, I'll sometimes get out the grass spikes. Nice. Got these ones for $24 on a clearance. So I had to
winning.
Yeah. Cheapest shoe by far. And then there's this big craze of shoes at the moment. It started around 2016, 2017 of adding carbon fiber plates, if you've ever heard of that. So basically it's this real responsive foam. This is kind of if I'm not doing a race or an event, it's my fastest shoe I'll use. So it's weird that you say fast shoes because you think it's the person that's fast, but like there's fast shoes, there's slow shoes, there's soft shoes, there's hard shoes. So this one, basically, these two, this one's my race one, which is the really soft, really responsive foam, as well as having a carbon fiber plate. So what that means is through the middle, all the way through to the back, it's got a carbon plate in there, and it acts as when you hit the ground. So this thing's got no bend in it. It's got that plate in there. When you hit the ground, basically the foam compresses, but not so much that you lose that energy. It will hit that plate and then bounce back off again.
Slingshots,
and it gives you that rocker motion as well. So that just gets you going really fast. So
say these fast shoes and slow shoes over a 5K run, what difference would it make to your time, the fast shoe compared to slow shoe?
Well, not this one, but the version before, they literally called it the Nike 4% because it would give you a 4% increase on your overall time, is what they said. So if I was to compare, let's say this one, because this one's not made to be fast at all. If I was to do my fastest 5K in this one compared to this one, I would expect a good, let's say I did 20 minutes in this one. I think I would be struggling to get under the 21 minutes in this one. But
sorry, go on.
It does make a difference. But I think they say this one is about 5%, but that's more so over the marathon. So that makes a big difference.
Makes a huge time difference, but it's still 5% is 5%, right?
Yeah. So I don't think I would break 20 in that other shoe unless I was really mentally prepared and pushed even harder. It's just, it might not be that full minute that I just said, but it's possible. It could be, or 30 seconds. It's really just off that 5%. It's
still a significant difference.
It's really significant.
Would that purely just come from the energy conservation from the shoe itself, giving you that extra little boost, or is it just, it
just gives you so much energy return in each stride. So you're literally going faster as well as saving energy.
Yeah.
So coming into the end of the run, you're still feeling fresh compared to the other.
Yeah.
But it just feels so good as well. And when you feel good, obviously you're going to perform better.
Absolutely, mate. That was a whole nother can of worms. I was not expecting that with shoes. Hey.
so when we start our 6 weeks prep phase, Zachy, they're the shoes I want, all right?
They're expensive ones, but you can have them.
Thanks, mate.
You can cop them.
That's awesome. So I guess with going back to injuries now that we've kind of got on a tangent about shoes.
Yeah.
What sort of we talk about our recovery and stuff all the time. What kind of recovery techniques? Like we've got all the norm ones. Run us over real quickly, all the ones that we'd always blab on about on this podcast. But what about like a few other bits and pieces that runner specific sort of techniques that you'd be doing, if there is any?
It's pretty much the same as what you guys are always talking about, where the most important is sleep, nutrition, just being smart with your training, even though that's not recovery, but even when you're training, setting yourself up to be able to recover straight away is really important. So like, what day is the day? So yesterday I had an interval at the end of the session. It was meant to be a kilometer, but the person I was training with started off a bit too fast. I got 400 meters in. I was like, this is way too fast. And then I really quickly in my head just said, if I keep going and finish this interval, I might get it done and it's going to be painful. But is it going to be worth it? Is the risk versus reward with my recovery for the rest of the week going to be worth it? And I decided in that second, I should probably give it another 100 meters and then just stop here so I can keep going for the rest of the week and get more gains out of it. So that's
it's the same comparison to what we'd say, like reps in reserve. Then, hey, hitting absolute failure takes such a big chunk out of recovery for such a minimal result, whereas falling short just a little bit, you can recover 10 times better and get a similar result.
If you're at Adcock Park at 6 a.m, you're not doing a race. Why would you put that full effort in there when you could just go home? So
that's it.
But there's things
or why would you be at Adcock Park running at 6 a.m. when you can go to bed, right?
Full stop.
But I don't know, I've probably got some personal opinions on recovery methods. A lot of people like the foam roll. Calf sleeves is something people do. Ice baths, hot baths, that sort of thing.
Fucking hate ice baths.
In the end, the science basically says, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but the science says that there's not really that much benefit out of doing any of that sort of stuff. The most important is, sorry, you go on.
There's also, ice in an injury too, like an acute injury isn't the best for long-term recovery either.
Don't do that anymore. There's a lot of change.
Ice is horrible. How does something so like, I don't know, have you guys ever actually done ice baths before? Were you there the season we had to do them after training?
Yeah.
Mate, it puts me in fight or flight mode. How is a stressful situation helping my recovery? I'm trying to recover from stress by adding more stress.
It's just a massive adrenaline rush.
Yeah, exactly. It makes zero sense to me.
So with recovery, I just say get your sleep, minimize extra work that you don't have to do. If you're like, you shouldn't be going and doing a extra leg workout in the week if you've already done what you've programmed for, or just doing, it's hard to avoid, but just trying to keep off your feet if you're in that spot where you're having a healthy lifestyle. No need to add in that extra 5,000 steps for no reason if you're trying to recover for that next run. But then there's obviously the sleep, just trying to get as much sleep as possible. We've talked about that in the podcast a lot. But then when it comes down to things like foam rolling and that sort of thing, I just say, if you like it and you feel like it does something for you, then definitely do it. But don't go into that not thinking that's going to be the thing that's going to end all. So don't go, I can get 6 hours sleep and foam roll and that will make up for it. Instead, just do what makes you feel good and what helps you in the long run. So someone might say, when I foam roll my calves, I feel so much better, even though that's not actually going to give them any sort of long-term benefits. At least they feel better for the next day and they're going to be able to do more.
What about do you do like recovery runs and stuff, like active recovery days and things, Zachy?
Yeah, so it's a bit here and there, but it's more so if you're training for a specific event and you want to try and bring up your overall weekly volume, there's that 80-20 rule we talked about. So 80% of your runs should be at an easy recovery effort anyway. But the difference between going out for a recovery run in between sessions and just taking the day off is really how you feel. But for me, I've got specific volumes I need to hit, so I have to do recovery runs. But if I had lower volume or just didn't care about that, if I felt really horrible, I would maybe do a really short run. But sometimes just even go on an exercise bike or nothing at all. But
I was going to say, because we just spoke about overuse injuries from running. An active run, like at a real slow pace, probably isn't going to assist in the niggles and things like that, is it? So
that's the thing. You've got to be.
I guess that's where you, like you said, you jump on a bike or you go for a swim or something real low impact.
Yeah, you've got to set yourself up really nicely to be able to do recovery runs. Even people train for 5, 10, 15, 30 years to be able to be at the point where they are in running, and then they could do a 16K recovery run at the pace where I do a flat out 5K and they feel fine. So it's just that different levels that you're at. So a beginner probably wouldn't be doing too many recovery runs, but rather their recovery runs are just more aerobic building runs. But that's why they have so many days off. They might only do 3 days a week.
Yeah, cool. That's very cool. Any other kind of recovery things that you like to do, Zachy, or that kind of?
I'm pretty slack with my recovery. Because what's working for me right now is what I do, which is just get enough sleep, trying to eat protein, carb up before runs, make sure I'm not depleted in anything there. And then just, if I don't need to do extra walking, I won't do it really. So I'm basically, me being lazy is my way of getting around the recovery part of training.
Nice. What about, I guess, you go, Haydo, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, talking about your carbon up before your runs, what's that usually look like? Like how long before you run a year? Eating your high carb meal, what's it usually consisting of? Or
Well, again, it's like everything, it's different for everyone.
Yeah,
Some people
obviously.
might have to eat 3 hours before a run. Other people can get away with 30 minutes. So
Oh,
really, it's completely different. And then also the carb source is completely different. Someone
yeah.
might have, like for me, if I have a lot of dairy before I run, like most people, that's really bad. Not saying that's a carb source, but just things like that, where you've just got to experiment and know. Some people might do really well with an energy gel that's specific for endurance sports, while other ones might get a stomach cramp instantly. So
what's your go-to?
Yeah, what's your set routine on a run or a race day?
So my hard sessions are all 6 a.m. in the morning to those 2 days a week. So
you just wouldn't eat before, like
well,
cut up the night before, or
what I've started doing now is I've got enough energy in my body anyway because I eat so much shit all the time. But I'll get up and then I'll just have a tea with sugar in it. So it's getting that simple sugars in straight away, where I'm not having anything in my stomach. I don't even finish the tea anyway. So I'm having half a tea with maybe not even a teaspoon of sugar in it. So it's not that much in there, but it's enough where I can notice that I feel a little bit better with that than having nothing at all.
But I came across a study, I don't know when it was, recently, and it was they did a study based on like tasting sugar can increase performance, not necessarily digesting the sugar.
Right.
So you can literally swish around sugar in your mouth, spit it out, and there may be a performance increase.
Sounds right. I'll take your word for it. But
I wouldn't waste energy like that. But that was like where I was just thinking, like you say, you're having such a minute amount of sugar that
you're still getting that sweet hit.
Yeah. So it's a pure placebo effect, really.
Yeah, that tiny bit of sugar just kind of gets my brain going, tells my body, let's go, let's do this. It's kind of like that routine now where I just know straight away when I have that I'm ready to go. But if I rock up without anything, I just feel flat straight away.
Yeah.
It's kind of just setting you up for it.
Oh, look at that. I got a visitor here.
Look at that.
and then the rest of my runs, I don't really care about trying to fuel myself before them because they're all easy runs. Maybe if it's a long run, I won't go into a long run without eating something. But recovery runs, I might go in faster doing those. It doesn't matter too much to me. I don't notice the difference because it's such a slow run relative to who you are, where you're not really tapping into those energy stores that you need to, where it's going to feel like you're dying basically. But then for a long run, I just have your normal carbs. I don't really have anything specific. Might be toast one day, it might be oats another day. It's just whatever I feel like and whatever.
I'm so routine with my nutrition on game day, hey, when it comes to soccer.
Oh yeah, I used to be.
Yeah, man, I've got like a set thing. It's got to be beef.
Got to be beef.
I've got to get 2 steaks in before game time rolls around. It's got to be rice. I've got to have tomato sauce on my rice, and I've got the set veggies that I got to eat. And I like between those two big meals, I like to get a protein shake and a handful of almonds in just to keep the blood sugar nice and stable. And then it's all time. And then it's like 4 shots of coffee, 2 like an hour before the game, another 2 half hour before the game. Start sipping on the Powerade leading into the game, and I'm so routine with it.
How's your performance usually in those games?
Oh man, it's never any good. Wouldn't matter what I ate.
Nah.
Yeah, like the actual running events are always in the morning. So I've had a routine for all of those ones. It's always kind of wake up 3 hours before, eat 2 hours before, have a coffee to try and get everything passed through. But not my last event, but the one before that, I completely failed my nutrition and it went.
Yeah, we heard you talk about that.
The whole event.
That's not a good time. How bad's that? Like the poor nutrition choices can completely ruin everything.
Yeah. It's even a bit worse when you have the right intentions and you've got this plan down and then
100%.
something's just gone wrong and it ruins 6 months of training.
Throws it all out the window.
Yeah. But then my last event, I was pretty good for that. I almost vomited on the finish line, but that's not so much in nutrition as the 21-kilometer running. But I can't remember what I ate before that. I'm trying to think, but it definitely wasn't the really milky overnight oats that I had the one before that.
I just wouldn't sit right. Just full stop. Hey,
that would not be my go-to. Oats would just be too heavy as well. But
I eat oats normally with
too.
I eat oats normally before I just at the start of the day, and I'm already feeling gluggy. Like I couldn't imagine training on that or running on that.
It's just such a heavy food.
Just sits there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll move on. We've got another question here. It says, is heel striking bad? What's your kind of opinion on that?
First, tell us what heel striking is, Zachy, because I don't even know what heel striking is, mate. Explain.
You probably do it, don't you, Greg? So
I would have, of course, I would have.
So heel striking is just exactly what it sounds like. If this is the ground, you're landing on your heel and then rolling down. So it's the act of heel striking isn't actually what's bad, but most people that heel strike overstride as well. Where if this is their body here, they're landing rather than landing underneath their body, they're landing out in front on their heel. So you can imagine they've got a straight leg going straight out in front of them. And instead of being stacked through the hip and the knee and the ankle, there's no stacking upwards. So all that force is individually going through the ankle, knee, and then hip. So really that heel strike, when you're stretched out in front of you, this leads to those braking forces. You're losing energy and all of that force is going through, not in that stacked line. So
Mate,
why do people naturally pick up such bad running techniques, Zachy? Do you have any explanation?
Oh, there probably is, but there's so much controversy in that sort of thing, because most of the time, which I thought this was true 100% of the time until I saw my girlfriend, and then that changed my whole perspective. But I always thought once you start sprinting, you'll go into your natural running form and everyone runs the same. But even that's not true sometimes. But the heel, I don't know what it is. I think a lot of it is just because most people don't start running from childhood, especially in Australia. Other countries are different, and that's why they're so much better than us. But we more go into playing sport and that sort of thing. So you're not really there's no form in that because you're changing directions. That sort of thing.
And so, I playing sport my whole life, I've never been taught how to run either. So there's no one's coaching running technique, is there?
Well, it was literally
how long. You go, Hader. Sorry.
I literally didn't learn how to run until I came to uni, and then they started teaching proper technique for running. And I'm like, I've been doing this wrong my whole life. Like heel striking, striking well out in front of my body, overstriding. You're saying all these things, and I'm like, shit.
I find the majority of people that I see that have just started running always overstride, and I did it as well. And it's really confusing because you think, why wouldn't we know naturally how to do it in that way that's going to protect us? But
I guess intuitively, it's like you want to get your leg out in front of your body as far as you can. You don't really realize the kind of braking force that striding with that foot out in front of you is going to have, rather than like underneath your body.
Yeah,
you've got to find that sweet spot between stride length and
When I first started, in my head, I think I ran properly for the first few weeks, and then I thought in my head, I need to get a bigger step in because then I'll go further. And then I started heel striking and got a knee injury. So I think it could even be someone's like, I'm not really improving when they first start, and they're like, what do I need to change? And that's probably the first thing they change. But it tends to be a lot of the heavier people, I guess. It must be something in their way they feel when they're running where they think, I need that cushion with the heel to kind of stop. Because what they do in the shoes is make them thicker in the heel as well. So that does promote heel striking quite a lot. So they might feel when they first start running, when they land on their midfoot or forefoot, they might feel that impact, especially if they're a heavier runner, and think, that doesn't feel good, this is hurting my knees, and then go into a heel strike. So there's probably a bunch of different roads that all lead down to doing the wrong technique. And it's just
if you had a complete nupty turn up for some running technique, Zachy, how long do you reckon until you've got them being from a complete nupty to running how they should biomechanically be running? Like what's your time frame on getting technique right? Generally,
I think I could get someone's technique right within a session, but it's just about teaching them and their body to keep that going, because you want to get to the point where you're not thinking about it. So that could take a month, that could take 2 years. It's different. And also, I'll just close that door quickly. As you guys probably hear, it's starting to rain in the Rimba.
Good fun.
So what was I saying?
How long it takes someone to
right. So and also biomechanically, everyone's got different techniques anyway. There's no one technique for that runner. So as a coach, for me, it's about really paying attention to how they're running and what to me looks like is the most beneficial for them and most efficient, basically, without causing injury. But that's just about I've got kind of a checklist of form that I'll go through with someone, but it's really picking out different things and then going through all of that.
So within the first session, you can pretty much identify what their optimal running technique is going to be. retrain them to do that. And then is that kind of like, you're obviously not just going, all right, this is how we run. Now go sprint. You're going to be doing like, all right, we're going to be working at like 70% so that you can like think about your technique, not just think about exertion sort of thing. Is that correct? Yeah.
But like I said, the faster you go, the more you tend to have better technique anyway. So you don't, when you're doing those faster efforts, you just let them go and they're usually pretty good. Usually it's only the arm swing or something like that that might not be optimal, but most of the time everything kind of corrects once they pick up speed. Because if you try and heel strike in front of your body while sprinting, it's basically impossible. You're just going to snap an ACL at that point. So your body already knows not to do that.
Right. So sprinting's the key. That'd be the equivalent. I guess we should just start that in the gym then. We'll just, rather than worrying about technique on just bar for squat, we'll just put 200 kgs on there and say,
you'll figure it out. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's it.
Collapses.
So it's a complete opposite of weight training. There you go.
Yeah. I wouldn't get someone to sprint straight away, but you'll notice if they were going, the faster they go, the better their technique would naturally come to. But it's just about teaching them what to think about in their head as they go through. It's different for each person. I'll find every time I get a new person running, the checklist kind of changes. So instead of, it might be like head up, relaxed shoulders, arms, that sort of thing. Another person, it might be hips forward, pendulum in the legs, that sort of thing. So it's just really individual for every single person, trying to figure out what different techniques what different checklists to go through in your mind. And then over time, if you're running 6 days a week, you're probably pretty quickly going to stop thinking about that sort of thing. So like for me, I can just run now and I don't have to think about what I'm doing with my foot stroke or where my hip is or what my arms are doing. But when I first started, it was like, okay, keep it forward and that sort of thing.
The golden rule of doing something 10,000 times until you master it, sort of thing. Yeah, cool.
Maybe 10,000 steps. No, it's not right. It's only 10K run.
That'd only take me 2 days because I do about 5,000 a day. Sweet. So again, kind of going back, I keep reverting back to the injuries because I just think of all the niggles that I keep getting all the time. How you sort of like, how you're programming your trainer or someone's training to sort of avoid all these injuries. We talked about the techniques, talked about like your recovery runs, blah, blah, blah. But like what kind of do's and don'ts in programming do you kind of have to avoid these injuries, continue progression and so on?
Yeah, I'll just go over my training because I feel like I've hit the nail on the head the last few months. I haven't had an injury since maybe June 2020 was my last injury, and that was only about 10 days that lasted for because I got it straight away. So it's just, you've got to be really smart with the training. So if I go to, from here. So from July, at the start of July, I started with a recovery week. So these numbers are different for everyone. But for me, I went 42 kilometers for that first week, which was a lower week. And there I still did my sessions, did a bit of a harder run on the Tuesday and the Thursday, and then all the rest were easy runs. And then on the Sunday, I did a shorter long run of 13 kilometers, and that all added up to 42 kilometers. Then the next week, I jumped back into my training where I was at that 50 to 55 kilometers, and then held that and still did my 2 sessions a week. And then I built up 10% from there. So for me, 10% is at maximum. So I kind of went that 5%. So I went 55, 60, 65 over the next 3 weeks. So I was building up like that. And then I dropped back down to that 45, 46, and then jumped back in instead of 55, jumped back into 56, 57, that sort of range, and then built up another 5-ish%. So it would have went sort of, let's say I went 50, 50, let's say I went 50, 55, 60, and then I'd have a down week, and then I might go 52, 57 and 62 or something like that, and just that slow build. So you're still overall getting that more volume in, but you're building up no more than 10%. So your body's able to adapt and take in that training and absorb the training. So that's what I've been doing consistently. And then it's also
so those 2 little phases that you had, how it was kind of a 2 increase from the first macro to the second macro, how many times would you keep going through that? So the first one started at 50, the next one started at 52, the next one starts at 54, the next one 50. Like how long do you continue them until you have to kind of really back off and then start somewhere else to build up again?
I mean, obviously, I talked about this in the last podcast, but I've I've changed a bit from there kind of, but it's picking an event really. So if you say I've got a marathon in 18 weeks, then you're going to go through that 4-week block, whatever that is, goes in 18. Don't ask me for my maths. But you might do 4 or 5 different phases of building for 3 weeks, down a week, building, down, building, and also adding in the taper there because it's a marathon. So you might have a few weeks slowly going back down towards that marathon goal. But then after you do your big run, that's why I always like to schedule around a big effort run. So last time I scheduled around that 5K. And then once I did that 5K, I just took a down week after that. So it was just running when I felt like it. And it's kind of letting your body really recover. Some people will take 4 days off, some will take 10 days off. It's just about how you feel. And then you want to just go back into running and then just start really conservatively. So you might, if you were starting your recovery weeks at 45, you might still only be at 35 that first week back, kind of get back into it, get all the systems going again. And then pretty much you can just jump back into where you were. So you might go straight back up to 45 again. And then depending on what you're training for now, you might go straight back into where you were and just keep building. But in theory, you could really build this up. If you're doing small increases, you could do that up and down for as long as you can until an injury comes really, which might come, might not come. You might be able to do it for 2 years straight. Or
not a good idea to tell people that though.
Well, that's if you've got a coach
stop when the niggles kick in.
Stop when you get hurt.
Well, that's enough. That's where with my training, I'm constantly every single day I'm looking at how I'm going and feeling. If I feel something in an ankle one run, I'll think about that the next run. I'll make sure in that next
assessing
in that next 24 hours, did I get more pain after the run, or did I get less pain, or did I feel anything at all? So it's really important. So it's not just get a program and do it. It's pretty much when you're doing running, it's in 7 days a week, sort of assessing every single day. So when I say you could build up forever, really, that's with making sure that your nutrition's on point, your sleep's on point, and that you're constantly assessing. So like even what it was last week or the week before, I was meant to go up to around 58 to 60 kilometers. And I did a pretty hard sprint session on the Tuesday and then just pulled up really sore groin and hamstring, felt a bit sore. And then I just had to make the decision. Well, the next day I tried to go for another run and it didn't feel as good. So I had to make that decision to just drop it down. And even now I'm still at the lower volume that I would have been this week because I basically had to take it back a few steps. But in the long run, instead of somebody who would be like, oh, I'm going to push through and get there, they'll end up injured in 3 weeks' time and then be out for 4 to 6 weeks while I'll just slowly keep building up with how I've kind of taken that step back. And then I'll just overtake that same person that tried to get to that 60 kilometers instead of dropping it back, if that made sense.
Absolutely. Like a little delayed week.
Made perfect sense till I zoned out, but that was good.
Until I got all spacey.
You're checking your program. You got a running app, do you, Zachy?
Yeah. So I've got an app that shows all the sessions go in there and then it shows your volume. So I've just got this whole calendar of all the sessions I've done. And then if I click on them, it shows you the map and everything. So I can see all the data and then I can plan weeks in advance. So I'll kind of go the month ahead of me. I'll plan that out and plan up my build, plan out all the sessions. But I think it's probably never happened before where I've gone a full 4 weeks without changing like 6 sessions.
Yeah.
It's so much constant changing and changing. It's not just like a gym program where you're like, all right, phase 1, phase 2, let's just go through the motions, get it going.
Get it done. Just hammer this volume out. Let's get it. But it's
basically, if I do a session on the Tuesday and my week starts on that Tuesday, every Monday I'll kind of look and go, okay, last week, this is what happened with the planned session. What do I have next week? I'll see that. And then I'll be like, okay, I think I can do that. Or I'm going to have to change this, change that. And I'm going to get more out of it doing it this way.
Obviously,
every second week would be a deload week for me with running. Just so you're prepared for that, Zachy.
Just feeling a little tight here at the moment. Might take a week off, just let it heal. But
I'm tight before I run, so every week's a deload week.
Oh yeah.
With your app, do you track clients on there too? Your running clients are all through that app?
Yeah, so I just get the clients, and then they've got the app as well. So if I give them their sessions over the week, it just pops up exactly like what mine looks like there. Yeah. And then they'll just click on it. So if I go in the future, see a session that's next week. So like here, it says quality session. It's probably backwards for you guys, but has the warm up, has the different intervals, has your cool down, has the total kilometers, and then it has the rest of the week there, your total kilometers for the week. Then all your progress is up the top there. So
cool. So you can just track what your clients have actually done. You set their program out on there. You can track what they've actually done. Give them a bit of a feedback and whatnot, and
it links straight to their running watch. I don't think you ever meet a runner that doesn't run with a watch unless they're probably crazy. I can't imagine just running without knowing what you're doing, but it will just link straight to their watch. So you can see especially if they're doing it properly and pressing the lap buttons and things when they should, you can literally see each segment. So if I give them say 4 by 400 meters, you can see each 400 meter interval and their time, their heart rate, their cadence, everything all in one. So
what's the go-to runner's watch? We talked about shoes. Run us through the watches now.
I think the most popular is probably Garmin. And then there's just entry level all the way up to the $1,500 watch there. They all do the same thing.
So my $50 smartwatch won't quite cut it. Is that right? Is that what you're telling me?
Does it track running?
I don't know. I don't look at it.
$50 smartwatch. Where'd you get that one from?
That's an Amazon bargain. That one.
Apple watches are pretty popular as well. They do the same sort of thing.
Right.
But accuracy is different between different brands. There's a bunch of other brands, but really, I've only ever had Garmin, and I've had a TomTom before. That was a bit of a weird one, but they all do the same thing as long as they track your GPS, and then they do the right job.
Pretty sure my dad had a TomTom GPS in his Fiat when he got it.
Well, you can imagine GPS and watch.
GPS goes in together.
Same thing. That's cool. Very
absolutely.
Cool. Is that all our questions, Hayden? Have we got much else that we wanted to ask today? I think we've covered most things. You got anything else? Yeah. You got anything else to add, Zachy?
Oh, probably,
we haven't covered.
We'll wait 10 minutes after we finish the podcast.
We'll be like, part three's on.
Yeah. That's what happened with the last one. I literally got in the car after it and I was like,
should have said this, should have said that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it kind of sucks when you're just the running guy. So there's so many things that you have to cover. Like we go on a podcast, go, okay, we're just going to cover sleep today.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to cover the whole thing surrounding running because we have no idea about it. So
none at all.
Like it all links back to each other. So you might say, so what? Like you ask a question about like how you asked about injuries, and I'm talking about shoes, and then it comes into technique and all of that. You can't just talk about one without all of them coming in. Because
it's also interconnected, isn't it? Like it all plays into each other.
Yeah, you knock out one part of the pyramid and the whole thing comes down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Exactly.
All right. Well, if we've all got nothing else to add, I'm thinking we'll wrap it up then, boys.
Yeah, I think
that's pretty good.
I think we went over a pretty good amount. There's probably going to have to be a part 3 at one point. I think there's
definitely going to be a part 3. There's going to be more stuff to come out.
There's too much information in that one alone. I've got to rewatch this about 3 times to make that all sink in. I think
to pick him. Oh mate, I'm going to be applying most of this. I've got to get fitter for footy training anyway. So.
Well, Zach will be getting a call from me. He'll be getting a call up 6 weeks from pre-season. So you hold me to that too, mate. All right.
Yeah. It's pretty easy at least. You know, in the pre-season in that for your sport, you're really not doing much. It's just keeping that aerobic fitness. So that's the best part of it all. And then you get into the pre-season.
I'll give you 2 runs a week, mate. That's all you get.
2 runs. Very good.
2 runs, take it or leave it.
Surely that can build my aerobic capacity enough.
Yeah, 2 runs, 15K, you reckon? Or 20K you want?
Oh, fuck. Is that like my month worth of running?
No, 2 20K runs a week, I'm thinking at the moment.
Well, yeah.
Take into consideration his starting point.
Let's start with the D. What's the deload, mate? Let's start with the deload.
Oh, that was the deload, sorry.
That was the deload. That is Zach's deload.
Yeah, I'm finding another coach. I'm done.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Zach, for coming on again.
Thanks for inviting me. It was good.
Yeah, it was. Knocked out a fair bit of stuff. Thank you again, Greg, for being here again.
My petition's getting a lot of signatures now, mate, to bring Coach Lizzie B back. Don't worry. Getting plenty of signatures.
We'll get her. Just a matter of time now. And yeah, apart from that, Zach, where can people find you on Instagram?
On Instagram, I'm just Coach Zach George, all one word, and you'll find me there. And anything else you need to find me is all through there. That'll start being active again when I stop being in this lockdown.
Stop being COVID.
Not long now, couple of weeks, and we're out of it, boys.
Every time I think of something that I should have added to this podcast, I'll write it down in notes. So next time we'll have like 30.
Good.
So we'll be good.
Good.
Oh, we love to hear it.
Part 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here we go.
We're just like one topic for each, just really drag it out.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Keep the ball rolling.
That's it.
Yeah, you can find Greg on Instagram at Coach Greg Wasson, myself at Coach Hayden Thompson, and our collective at Alpha Strength Physique on Instagram. So thank you all for listening again this week, and we'll catch you next week. Have a good week, guys.
See you later.
Cheers.